shift now to our scripture reading. The Old Testament reading will be by Sidney Harris, and it's one of the theme scriptures, Psalm 33, 1 through 5.
Okay. Sing joyfully to the Lord, you righteous. It is fitting for the upright to praise him. Praise the Lord with a harp. Make music to him on the 10-string lyre. Sing to him a new song. Play skillfully and shout for joy. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. The Lord loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of his unfailing love.
Thank you, Sidney. That is one of the theme scriptures, particularly verse 5. And I'll refer to it a little later in the sermon. The Lord loves righteousness and justice. The Lord's faithful love fills the whole earth. Our New Testament reading comes from Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 13. Every person should place themselves under the authority of the government. There isn't any authority unless it comes from God, and the authorities that are there have been put in place by God. So anyone who opposes the authority is standing against what God has established. People who take this kind of stand will get punished. The authorities don't frighten people who are doing the right thing. Rather, they frighten people who are doing wrong. Would you rather not be afraid of authority? Do what's right, and you will receive its approval. It is God's servant given for your benefit. But if you do what's wrong, be afraid, because it doesn't have weapons to enforce the law for nothing. It is God's servant put in place to carry out his punishment on those that do what is wrong. That is why it is necessary to place yourself under government's authority, not only to avoid God's punishment, but also for the sake of your conscience. You should also pay taxes for the same reason, because the authorities are God's assistants, concerned with this very thing. So pay everyone what you owe them. Pay the taxes you owe. Pay the duties you are charged. Give respect to those you should respect, and honor those you should honor. Loving God, as we stand before the truth of the scriptures, the promise of the scriptures, and the challenge of the scriptures, give us ears to hear exactly what we need to hear. Amen. Well, good morning, all. Thank you, Carolyn, for the words of interpretation of our Ministry of Christian Education. Toby, Leela, Chris, so good to see you. I know some of your families are listening in. To our musicians, and to Robert, and for the psalm and the prayer. Good morning to Mary Carney. Mary, it's so good to have you with us. We pray with you, we mourn with you on the death of your beloved daughter, Marilla. Is there any greater challenge for a parent than to say goodbye to a child? Good morning to Hallie Randall. Hallie is standing by her mom as her mom's in hospice care. Hallie, love, prayers, respect for you. I hope to see you a little bit later in the day. I've lost count a little bit. I don't know if it's 38 or 37 days now until November 3rd, Election Day in the United States of America. But we have been talking we will be talking, we are talking today. We have the Justice Jam on Wednesday evening. We're talking about the centrality of voting. And is right and proper. We stay away from endorsing any specific candidates, but we talk about issues and justice and love and how to bring our core values to bear in the electoral process. We talk about corrupt politicians. You might say that a corrupt voter is one who goes into the ballot box with only one question in mind: what's in it for me? The challenge is to be community voters, faith-filled voters, not so much partisan voters, but values-enabled voters. This morning I read a scripture, Romans chapter 13. And in some ways, it's a confusing and challenging scripture because without putting it in any context, it seems to say those governmental authorities, be they kings, emperors, presidents, senators, mayors, they were put in place by God, and it is your job, followers of Jesus, to obey them. Romans 13, verse 1 reads, "Every person should place themselves under the authority of the government." My goodness, that sounds rather daunting. And so clearly, this is one of those passages of scripture that needs to be interpreted wisely, needs to be put in context, and needs to be read within the whole of the Bible. For clearly, as we read the whole Bible, there is a time, there is a place, there may be even frequently a time and place when, as people of faith, we must stand against the government in the name of love and justice. Look at the story of Exodus. Clearly, the message to Moses and the people was not be subservient to Pharaoh in all things. Look at the prophets. Jeremiah said again and again to the people of his time, don't believe the message. Don't believe the lie that because the temple stands in Jerusalem, nothing terrible will ever happen here. The temple is a shield. The temple makes us exceptional. We don't need to worry about paying attention to justice. As long as the temple stands, we're okay. Jeremiah challenged that message. And the king of his time said essentially, Jeremiah, shut up. And if you don't shut up, to jail with you, and we'll toss you into a cistern. We'll throw you into a well. Clearly, the Bible gives great room for challenging, abusive, unjust systems of authority. What then should we make of Romans 13? Well, the book of Romans, the letter of Romans, is an introduction by Paul of himself to the Church of Rome, a community he has never visited, most of whom he has never met. And he writes an extended letter, primarily detailing his theology, a theology of being in Christ, a theology of grace, a theology that nothing shall separate us from the love of God in Christ, a theology in which people of Jewish background and Gentile background are one. As he moves to conclude that letter, he talks about some practical things. And to the folks at Rome, he says essentially, there are some saying that you need to revolt against the emperor. I don't think I would advise that. In fact, as he says in Romans 13, just pay your taxes. It can be hard, it can be challenging, but pay your taxes. Respect the authority in that way. Stay off their radar screen, because right now, if you were to be involved in revolt, I think that revolt will be crushed. Now is not the time or the place. I'm not saying to you that the emperor is God, far from it. I'm saying that the emperor has some appropriate authority, and respect that as you can. It's a very nuanced, it's a very limited message that Paul is delivering to the church in Rome. In fact, if we continue just another verse, he continues, don't be in debt to anyone except for the obligation to love each other. Paying taxes can be necessary, but loving one another is paramount. And that's true in the Church of Rome, true for Jeremiah as he speaks to the people in Jerusalem. It's true for us now. We need to view those in government with a certain respect. They have an authority. We need to pay our taxes. But we stop short of worshiping. We've stopped short of blind obedience. We stop short of unfaltering submissiveness to those in authority. There is ample room on the pages of the Bible to say, more important than honoring authority is loving one another. One of our theme scriptures for the year from our Department of Christian Education, John chapter 15, verse 12. This is my command. Love each other as I have loved you. As Jesus says farewell to his disciples, his message is not bow to those in authority. It is love one another. And as Sydney read from the Psalms, Psalm chapter 33, verse 5, the Lord loves righteousness and justice. And so often in the Psalms, so often on the pages of the Bible, righteousness and justice are paired together. These are the will of God. The Lord's faithful love fills the whole earth. That love and justice are the expression of God's faithful love filling the whole earth. It's not the Democratic Party that is the expression of God's love and faithfulness. It's not the Republican Party that's an expression of God's love and faithfulness. It's not the sitting president that's an expression of God's love and faithfulness. It's not the current mayor that's the expression of God's love and faithfulness. It is love and justice as we live them out, as we vote them in. Romans 13 that I read it's not a full-blown exploration of the relationship between church and state. It needs to be read in companionship with the whole of the Bible. It needs to be read in parallel with stories like Jesus. Jesus being challenged by the religious elites of his day, as he taught in the temple. And they wanted to trap him. They wanted to undermine him. They wanted to embarrass him. They wanted to humiliate him. They wanted to dishonor him. So they asked a question: should we pay taxes to Caesar? A volatile question in year 35 in Jerusalem. Jesus, seeing the trap set, said, "Bring me a coin. Bring me a coin." Interesting, Jesus did not have a coin on his person. Says something about Jesus' status in society. Bring me a coin. Bring him a coin, and Jesus looks at it, holds it, and says, whose visage is on this coin? Whose face? And they said, well, Caesar's. And then Jesus said the enduring words, then render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, but render unto God's the things that are God's. Whenever we read Romans chapter 13, be subject to the ruling authorities, we must hold that in parallel with Jesus' words, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar. There are some things, taxes, but render unto God the things that are God. And that is always much greater, always more expansive, always more complete. Caesar can command our taxes. God lives in our hearts. Different scholars have said that Caesar, whoever Caesar is, emperor, whoever emperor is, president, whoever president is, can put their faces on a coin, can put their image on a coin. But God's image is always and forever in humanity. We are all created in the image of God. The ruler's face can be stamped on a coin. God's image lives in us, and we see that image when we love and serve each other, when we commit to walk in the way of love and justice, when we promise to vote for love and for justice. Like Jesus, Paul acknowledges an important but limited role for government, for emperor, for king, for president. The emperor can command our taxes. God directs our love. I read this week an important essay, Between Two Crosses to Which to Bow. The author is John Metters. He's a professor of English at college in Mississippi. Let me read just a bit of that. I stand between two crosses as a Christian in the United States. Bowing to one cross necessitates turning my back on the other. Both crosses are symbolic of ideas, attitudes, affiliations, and ethical demands. Both carry with them vast narrative traditions. Both make ultimate and uncompromising claims on my life. Assuredly, though, they are different crosses. The first cross is old, familiar, and some would say rugged, though our comprehension and embrace of it are never fully realized in our devotion or in our common life. This cross demands we love our neighbors as we love ourselves, and that we love God most of all. It beckons us down hard paths of welcoming strangers, forgiving and even embracing people who have done us wrong. This cross unwraps the majestic bounties of the natural world, not as privileges to be hoarded and used selfishly, but as extravagant provisions and gifts, tokens of love to be cherished and shared. Finally, the origin of this cross is a staggering instance of humility and attempted humiliation. This cross is not our triumph. This cross stands for redemption. The second cross is big, shiny, eye-catching, and seems to be always new. It looms ominously over the political landscape, where it overshadows the first cross and delights in speaking for it. It insists on control, compels fealty, brooks no dissent, and divides the world into us and them. Its concerns are prestige and privilege. Its discourse is power. Which cross? Some folks read Romans 13 and point to the second cross, the cross that dominates the landscape and demands that everyone bow. Others read Romans 13 along with the Gospels, along with John 15, love one another, along with Psalm 33, let righteousness and justice reflect God's eternal love, and bow to the second cross, the cross of service and sacrifice and thinking rightly and modestly about ourselves. "37, 38 days from the election. Voting is a sacred right and a sacred duty. As we vote, let's think beyond what's in it for me. Let's think what's in it for our neighbors. Can our vote reflect love? Can our vote encourage justice? Does our vote reflect an understanding that we are always choosing between two crosses? The cross of domination and the cross of caring, sacrifice, and service. Our vote reflects the cross we choose. May our vote reflect that we choose the cross of love and justice. Amen.